Today's story is Wings of a Dream, the village boy who built his own airplane. In the dusty, remote village of Jharigram, nestled between fields and forests of eastern India, lived a boy named Arjun. The village had no proper roads, no electricity in some homes, and certainly no sign of airplanes, except one thing, the sky. Every afternoon, when the sun began to dip low, Arjun would climb the neem tree near the paddy fields with a battered pair of binoculars and stare at the sky. He would watch birds glide, airplanes trail white smoke across the blue canvas, and dream. A dream that was too absurd for anyone in his village to understand. He wanted to build and fly his own airplane. His father, a farmer who toiled under the sun every day, would shake his head and say, "Dreams are fine, Arjun, but your feet must stay on the ground." But Arjun was different. His heart already had wings. Arjun was 9 when he built his first airplane. It was, of course, made of paper, but it flew. A little wobbly, then soared for 3 seconds before crashing into a pile of hay. But for Arjun, it wasn't a failure. It was magic. He spent nights reading whatever he could find. The village had no library, but an old retired teacher named Mr. Sen noticed Arjun's obsession and gave him a torn physics textbook and an old encyclopedia. "This," said Mr. Sen, "is your ticket to the sky." Arjun began sketching airplanes on the back of notebooks, on walls, even on his school shirt once. He learned about thrust, lift, drag, and airfoils. But knowledge wasn't enough. He needed materials, parts, tools, none of which his family could afford. As he grew older, so did his dream. At 13, Arjun announced that he would build an actual airplane. The villagers laughed. "The boy has lost his mind," said one. "Airplanes are not made in huts," said another. Even his school teacher warned him to focus on exams, not impossible fantasies. But Arjun didn't care. He began collecting junk. Broken fans, discarded bicycle parts, tin sheets, toy motors, anything that resembled machinery. He built small gliders and tested them on the hills outside his village. They never flew more than a few feet, but they taught him valuable lessons. Failure wasn't an enemy. It was a teacher. By 15, Arjun had a detailed blueprint. It looked childish to an engineer, but it was the product of raw determination and unfiltered passion. He modeled it after a basic ultralight aircraft he had seen in an old science magazine. He needed an engine. He needed welding tools. He needed aluminum. But most of all, he needed belief, and one day, he found it in an unexpected place. One afternoon, the village chief's grandson came to see Arjun's workshop, a makeshift shed made of bamboo and plastic. The boy took pictures and uploaded them to social media with a caption, "The boy who thinks he can fly." The post went viral. The post reached a regional journalist who wrote a story on Arjun. That article caught the eye of a retired Indian Air Force officer, Captain Ravi Thakur. Moved by Arjun's grit, he visited the village. "I've flown jets," the captain said, "but I've never seen a heart fly as high as yours." Captain Thakur donated tools, an old scooter engine, and promised to mentor Arjun remotely. With renewed hope, Arjun started building again, this time with real tools and a real plan. The days were long. Arjun would attend school from 8 to 2, help his father in the fields till 6, and then work in his workshop till midnight. He learned welding from YouTube videos he watched at the village cyber cafe. He scraped his hands, cut his fingers, and burned his arm once, but never stopped. Bit by bit, his airplane took shape. The wings were fashioned from aluminum sheets riveted to a bamboo frame. The propeller was handcrafted and balanced. The engine was fixed, modified, and tested again and again. It took 2 years. On a foggy morning, Arjun wheeled out his aircraft, painted white, with red stripes and the words "Wings of a Dream" scrolled on the side. The villagers gathered, half expecting a crash. Arjun sat inside, strapped a helmet made from a construction site, and started the engine. It sputtered, groaned, then roared to life. He accelerated down the slope. The aircraft bumped, jerked, then lifted, 3 feet off the ground, then 6, then 10. For 25 seconds, Arjun flew. He landed rough, but safe. And the village erupted in applause. Local news covered the story. Then national channels. Then international media. Headlines read: Village boy builds airplane without any formal training. The Indian Wright brother. From paddy fields to the sky. Arjun received offers from engineering colleges. He was invited to speak at science fairs. The government awarded him a Young Innovators grant. Companies sent him scholarships. A crowdfunding campaign raised enough to send him abroad for aviation training. But Arjun didn't just want to fly. He wanted to teach others to dream. With his prize money, he built a small STEM center in his village. Children who had never touched a computer were now coding, flying drones, building robots. Arjun named the center Udan, flight. I flew, he said, because someone believed in me. Now it's my turn to believe in others. Years later, Arjun became an aerospace engineer. He helped design drones for agriculture, low-cost helicopters for medical transport, and trained students across India. But every year, on the anniversary of his first flight, he returned to Jharigram. He'd sit under the same neem tree, look at the sky, and smile. The boy who once chased birds now flew with them. He proved that sometimes, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning. Arjun's life changed, but he never let fame define him. While he now lived in a city apartment provided by a government innovation scholarship, his weekends were spent back in the village. The shed that once served as his workshop had now transformed into a mini hangar with a proper roof, solar power, and even a tiny runway for test flights. A young girl named Maya from a nearby village, barely 10, arrived one day holding a model airplane made from sticks and cardboard. Will this fly? She asked. Arjun knelt, examined it, and smiled. Not yet. But you just took your first step. That evening, he announced an Open Wings program, a monthly workshop for rural kids where they could tinker, build, and fly their first flying machines. The spark in their eyes reminded him of himself. His dream was no longer about building planes, it was about building people. The story of Arjun's journey spread beyond borders. A global education forum in Switzerland invited him to speak. Nervous but proud, Arjun delivered a TED-style talk titled Wings in the Dirt. He spoke of broken tools, bruised fingers, nights without food, and days full of doubt. But mostly, he spoke about hope. A clip of his talk went viral. NASA engineers reached out. So did MIT professors. One email, however, struck him more deeply than all others. It was from a boy in Nigeria who wrote, "Because of you, I'm building my own aircraft from scrap. My neighbors laugh, but I know they laughed at you too." That night, Arjun cried, not from sadness, but from the realization that dreams fly faster when shared. Success, however, brought new challenges. During a test flight of his second prototype, the engine failed midair. Arjun crash-landed in a field, injuring his arm. News spread quickly, young innovator injured in crash. Critics resurfaced. He's risking his life for attention, said one. Amateur playing scientist, said another. For the first time in years, Arjun hesitated. The pain in his arm was healing, but the doubt in his heart lingered. Could he really continue? His mother, usually quiet and practical, came and said, "You didn't fall from the sky, son. You came closer to it than anyone here ever did. You'll fly again." He smiled through tears. Sometimes, all it takes is a mother's voice to relight a dream. With government support and private sponsorship, Arjun launched the National Innovation Lab for Youth, a place where children from underprivileged backgrounds could work on real-world projects, drones for crop health, solar planes, wind-powered toys. At the inaugural ceremony, a minister praised him. "He is not just an innovator. He is the wind beneath thousands of wings." The lab trained over 3,000 students in 2 years, many of whom went on to win national awards. One batch even launched a weather balloon into the stratosphere. And in the middle of it all, Arjun remained their guide, not a boss, not a hero, but one of them. One particular project struck a chord with Arjun. A team of students from tribal areas designed a low-cost drone to deliver medicine to flood-hit regions where roads didn't reach. The prototype succeeded. Within 6 months, the Indian government adopted the model for rural medical delivery. Arjun called it Project Freedom. His dream had now saved lives. The boy who once had nothing now gave everything to the future. Arjun was awarded the highest civilian honor for youth innovation. He traveled to Delhi, dressed in a simple kurta, and stood before the President of India. During the ceremony, the President said, "This young man has not just built an airplane, he has built a runway for others to rise." As flashbulbs lit up the stage, Arjun's mind went back to his father's calloused hands, his mother's silent prayers, and the neem tree under which it all began. He touched the medal with gratitude but whispered to himself, "This is not the destination. Just another takeoff." With growing international interest, Arjun launched Udan International, a fellowship program connecting young innovators from rural backgrounds around the world, India, Kenya, Peru, Nepal. Children from remote corners now shared their projects via satellite internet, collaborated across continents, and even worked on building a hybrid, eco-friendly aircraft. Arjun had created a global runway where every child could take off. Years passed. Arjun, now in his 30s, had flown dozens of aircraft, spoken at UN assemblies, and even consulted for space agencies. But his heart remained in Jharkhand. Every winter, he held the Wings Festival in his village, where children showcased their inventions. The skies were filled with paper planes, drones, and joy. One journalist asked him, "You've flown all over the world. Where do you belong?" He looked at a barefoot boy holding a plastic glider and said, "Right here. In every child who dares to look up." When Arjun turned 40, his students organized a surprise. They unveiled the Arjun Aviation Academy, a school built on the very land where his first paper plane crashed. The building was shaped like a soaring wing, painted white and red, just like his first real aircraft. The walls were lined with pictures of innovators, inventors, and dreamers. And at the entrance, a plaque read, "In honor of the boy who gave wings to our dreams." Arjun was 60 when he built his last plane, a solar-powered, single-seater glider named Mukti, Freedom. He took off on a quiet morning, just as he had as a teenager, soaring over green fields, rivers, and his beloved neem tree. As he glided silently above the village, children ran below waving, shouting, chasing the shadow of his flight. When he landed, his grandson asked, "Dadu, why do you still fly?" He smiled and said, "Because the sky still whispers new dreams. And I still listen." And somewhere, high above the clouds, the boy who once stared at the sky had become one with it. Moral of the story: dreams are not limited by geography, wealth, or education. They only need courage, belief, and the will to try again. Anyway, that's all for today's story. If you like it, then definitely like, comment, share, and if you are new to the channel, then definitely subscribe and stay with us. Thank you.